Dear First Secondary, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Mr. Ahmed Mahmoud with you today to introduce a new mathematics lesson. Today, inshallah, we have a trigonometry. It's Unit 2, Lesson 5. The lesson is called Graphing Trigonometric Functions. In this lesson, inshallah, we are going to learn how to graph the sine function and the cosine function and how to identify the domain and the range of each of them. Let's start the lesson. First, we are going to start with graphing the sine function. Okay, let y equal sine theta. Now to graph this function, as we used to graph any function, we start with a table. We make a table like this. So up I'm going to write theta, down I'm going to write sine theta. Okay, now I'm going to try to choose some values for theta which give me gives me values of. Now I'm going to choose special values for theta. Okay, as we studied before, the best values for theta is table 30. Okay, now if theta equal 0, so sine 0 equal 0. And if theta equal 30, sine 30 equal 1 equal 0. Equal 0.5. And if theta equal 60, so sine 60 equal root 3 over 2, and root 3 over 2 equal 0.86, and sine 90 equal 1, and 120, sine 120 equal square root 3 over 2, square root 3 over 2 equal 0.86, and 150 sine 150 equals 0.5 or half, and 180 sine 180 equals 0, 210 sine 210 equal negative half, and 240 sine 240 equal negative root 3 over 2, which is equal negative 0.86, 270 sine 270 equal negative 1, 300 sine 300 equal negative root 3 over 2, which is negative 0.86, 330 sine 330 equal negative 0.5. Finally, 360 sine 360 as the same as sine 0 equal to 0. Okay, now I'm going to graph the function like this. This is the graph. Notes, I make theta at x-axis and sine theta on y-axis. Okay, in the x-axis I made it table 30, 0, 30, 60, as you see here. Okay, now I will start with 0, 0, 0 and 0, 30 and 0.5 here, 60 and 0.86 here, 90 and 1 here, 120, 0.86, 150, 0.5, 180 and 0, 210 and negative 0.5, 240 and negative 0.86, 270 and negative 1, 300 and negative 0.86, 330 and negative 0.5, 360 and 0. Okay, this is a graph of sine theta. By looking carefully to the curve make a wave like this. This wave or this kind of functions called periodic functions. What's the meaning of periodic? Periodic means repeated. Okay, it started at 0, okay, and at x equals 360 also y equal 0, okay. And if I complete to 720 degrees, it will make a new wave, okay. So it's called periodic function. Okay, now I need to identify three objects: the domain, the range, and the period of this function. Okay, what is the domain? The domain is x-axis. Here I start with 0 and end with 360. So the domain in this example, not in general, in this example is from 0 to 360. From 0 to 360. But I can write the domain in radian like this, from 0 to 2 pi. So the domain here in this example from 0 to 360 degrees, or from 0 to 2 pi. Now the range. The range represented at y-axis. Okay, the smallest value here is -1, opposite to -1. And the maximum value here opposite to 1. By looking carefully to sine theta, the smallest value here at -1 and the maximum value at 90, sine 90 equal 1. So the range of the function lie from -1 to 1. This is the smallest or the minimum value, and this is the maximum value. So the range equal is from -1 to 1. Okay, finally the period. The period, as I said, the function is called periodic function. Periodic function or repeated function. Okay, the period here, the function started as 0, at 0, sine theta, its start at 0. Okay, its end at 0 only. So it make a whole period, again, it makes a whole period during 360 degrees. So the function completed a whole period in 360 degrees. So the period here equals 360 degrees or 2 pi. Okay, now let's study another example. Now if I need to study to graph 2 sine theta. Okay, so I will make what? First I will start with the table. Okay, now theta here and here negative theta. Sine theta. Or, okay, first I will make 0. 2 times sine 0 equal, sine 0 equals 0. 2 times 0 equal 0. Okay, here I'm going to write 30. Sine 30 equal half. Then 2 times half equal 1. And so on. Okay, here I'm going to write 90. Sine 90 equal 1. 2 times sine 90 equal 2. Like this. 0, 0, 30, 1, 60, 1.72, and so on. Okay, now again, sine 90 equal 1, so 2 sine 90 equal 2. Sine 120 equal 0.86 times 2 equal 1.72. Sine 150 equal half times 2 equal 1, and so on. Okay, so by graphing this function like this, 0, 0, 30 and 1, 60, 1.72, 90 and 2, 120 and 1.72, and so on. Okay, by looking to the function, okay, the function also periodic, but here there is a change in the domain, as in the range. The domain is from 0 to 360, looks like the previous function, but the range change. How come? The range here, the smallest value is -2 and the maximum value is 2, so the range is from negative 2 to 2. So there is a relation between this number and the range. Again, there is a relation between this number, the number here, and the range. If this number is 1, so the range from negative 1 to 1. If this number is 2, so the range from negative 2 to 2, and so on. Okay, so the domain equal from 0 to 360 over 2 pi, and the range from negative 2 to 2, and the function is periodic also. It looks like the previous one, and it makes a whole period in 360 degrees or 2 pi. Now let's study the cosine function. First, y equal cosine theta. Okay, now the table. I'm going to use the same values for theta. 30, 60, 0, first 30, 60, 90, and so on. Cosine 0 equal 1, and cosine 30 equal root 3 over 2, cosine 60 equal 0.5, and so on, like this. Okay, now let's graph this function. 0 and 1 here, 30 and 0.86, 60 and 0.5, 90 and 0, 120 negative half, 150 negative 0.6, 180 and negative 1, 210 negative 0.6, negative 0.86, 240 negative 0.5, 270 and 0, 300 and half, 330 and 0.86, finally 360 and 1. Also we have here periodic function. Why? Because the function started as 1, and after 360 also it's back to the same point at 1. So it is a periodic function, and it makes a whole period during 360 degree. The whole period here started from 1 back to 1 after 360 degrees. So the period here after 360. Okay, now let's study the domain. The domain is from 0 to, I said the domain from x-axis, so it's from 0 to 360 or 2 pi. The range, the minimum value is negative 1 and the maximum value is 1 according to the number here in this position. So the range from negative 1 to 1, and it makes a whole period after 360 degrees or 2 pi in radian. Okay, this is the shape or the curve of the cosine function. Okay, first I need you to notice that the sine function starts at 0, comes from the 0, and the cosine function comes from 1. Okay, so in some time he may give you some figures or some graphs, and you are going to identify the rule. If the function comes from 0, so it is a sine function, and if the curve comes from 1, so it is a cosine function. Okay, another example. Now I'm going to graph y equal 3 cosine 3 theta. Okay, if theta equal 30, so 0, so 3 times 0 equal 0, cosine 0 equal 1. And if theta equal 30, So cosine 30, 30 times 3 here, 3 times 30 equal 90, cosine 90 equal 1. Okay, if theta equal 60, 3 times 60 equal 180, cosine 3 times 60 equal negative 1, and the rest of the values as follow. Again here, cosine 3 times 0 equal 1, cosine 3 times 30 equal 0, cosine 3 times 60 equal negative 1, cosine 3 times 90 equal 0. Every time you have to multiply theta by 3 because we have here 3 theta. Okay, the graph will be like this. Okay, now 0 and 1 here, start at 1 because this is a cosine. Okay, 30 and 0, 60 and negative 1, 90 and 0, 120 and 1. Now it makes a whole period during 120 degrees. Again, it comes from 1 to 1 during 120 degrees. So after 120 degrees, it will make a new period like this. 150 and 0, 180 and negative 1, 210 and 0, 240 and 1. It makes a new period here from 120 till 240. So every 120 degrees it makes a new period. Okay, now I will start the third period. Here 270 0, 300 negative 1, 330 0, 361. So here this function during the 360 degrees it makes 3 periods. Okay, the range here, the domain here from 0 to 360 or 2 pi. The range, the minimum value is negative 1, the maximum value is negative 1 because here there is 1. Okay, but the period here is not 360. The period here, every 120 degrees it makes a whole period, and 120 means 2 pi over 3. Okay, now I have solved 4 examples. Okay, now let's conclude the next rules from the previous examples. Now we have the sine function and the cosine function. They have the same properties except the graph, the difference in the graph. How come? The graph of the sine comes from 0, the graph of the cosine comes from 1 or whatever, or any number, okay, except 1. Okay, here if we have y equal a sine b theta and y equal a cosine b theta. Okay, as I said before, this number, okay, the range depend on this number, and the periodic depend on this number. Period depend on this number. Okay, so here the domain is from negative infinity to infinity. Okay, from negative infinity, this is in general. In general, the domain of sine function or cosine function comes from negative infinity or to infinity or r, the whole real numbers. Number 2, the range. The range is from negative a to a. Again, the range is from negative a to a. If this If a equal 1, then it will be negative 1 to 1. If a equal 2, from negative 2 to 2, and so on. Okay. They are a periodic functions, and the period equal 2 pi over absolute b. Absolute b because if b is negative or positive, it doesn't matter. So the period here equal 2 pi over absolute b. Okay, now let's study this example. If the function y equal 2 sine theta, okay, 2 sine 5 theta, okay, now the domain is negative infinity to infinity, it's forever. Okay, now the range is from negative 2 to 2. The period equal 2 pi over 5. Okay, 2 pi in radian in degrees equal 360. 360 over absolute 5 equals 72. Okay, now this is the rules of the sine and cosine functions. Let's solve the next question. The range of the function f of theta, here because we have here 1, so it will be from negative 1 to 1. Here the range of the function 2 sine theta, because we have here 2, so it will be from negative 2 to 2 closed. And here f of theta equal 4 sine theta, the range equal, because we have here 4, so it will be from negative 4 to 4. F of theta equal 2 sine 4 theta is a periodic function, and its period equal, the periodic depend on this number, so it will be 2 pi or 360, it's up to you, over absolute 4. Okay, 2 over 4 equal half, so it will be pi over 2. Okay, it means what? It means that this function complete a whole period every pi over 2, and the pi over 2 equal 90 degrees. Every 90 degrees in the graph. Okay. The maximum value of the function f of theta equal 4 sine theta. Here the range from negative 4 to 4, so the maximum value is 4. The next question. Write the rule of each trigonometric functions below its corresponding figure. Number 1, here this function comes from 0, go up to 2, go down to negative 2, okay, and complete a whole period after 2 pi. So this is a sine function, so y equal sine theta. But here the function go up till 2, so its range is from 2 to negative 2, so here we have 2 sine theta, so the function equal 2 sine theta. The next one, the function here comes from 1 and go down to 0, so here negative 1, and go up again to 1 after 2 pi, so this is a cosine function, so y equal cosine theta. Okay, and this comes from 1, so here we have 1. Okay, and go and complete a whole period after 2 pi, so this is 1. Okay, and this is the end of the lesson. I hope it was helpful for you. See you in the next video inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. Ahmed Mahmoud was with you.